yeah, good luck with that. Another cool way I've seen to keep housing cool, and I don't remember who I just had on that actually had done a house like this, but when we started looking for housing around here in Texas again, we started finding houses that had like a single wide trailer as like a guest house. And a lot of them had basically, it almost looked like a carport built over the trailer. And we were looking in the summer, and we went in a couple of them, and all the ones we saw, the trailers were really in bad shape. But I did have to admit, it was quite cool compared to what you would expect with no air conditioning, just the windows open. Like basically the entire house is in shade. And there was someone down near Austin that I just had somebody on about a building show that built a house that way. The whole thing is canopy. And it really does a good job as well. So that's another thing that you can look at with trying to keep houses cool, especially a small structure. If you basically build a dual roof with space between the roof sections, you're going to keep that tremendously amount cooler.
Harvesting minerals for your garden, would it be ideal to go to just like a lake bed or a creek bed and be able to pull out some sand or?
I mean, the best way to get minerals to your garden is to put things that are growing in your garden and in your yard through a body of an animal and manure back out. The animals will convert those minerals better than anything else. And if you're feeding your animals things like comfrey and dandelion with the long taproot, you get a lot of that naturally. Now, supplemental minerals, my two favorite are to use either green sand or lava sand. I can't see any reason why using crushed seashells wouldn't bring a lot of calcium into the equation. I know people that have just simply gone down to the beach and brought in beach sand and have had, there's no detrimental effect from that. But when it comes to a commercial product, lava sand and green sand are my two go-tos. I prefer green sand because it's got a better mineral profile, but it's a lot harder to find sometimes than lava sand. Around here there's plenty of material supply places. You can go get 2-3 cubic yards and load in the back of the truck if you want. That's my go-to. But your biggest thing, if you can do it, and I know some of you guys live where you can't, the biggest way to get the mineral cycle running on your property is bringing animals into the equation because they can eat things you and I cannot. And many of the things that are still capable of accessing the minerals that are left in our soil are much more deep-rooted than the things that we eat. And if we start putting that through them, that then makes it accessible to the parts that we consume. Of course, we can eat the animals too. And if God didn't want me to eat animals, he wouldn't have made them out of meat.
No, I just try to keep everything as natural as I possibly can. I haven't brought in anything like that, any kind of sand or anything like that.
You have animals.
And I do have animals. And I guess the only thought I would add to that, if you don't have access to the animals, because I use manure for my animals all the time, is there are folks around you that do. And when I talk a little bit later, that's one of the things I'm going to talk about in terms of getting involved with other folks. You can always go to a local farmer to get some stuff, some manure.
Just be real careful with where you're sourcing manure from and find out if you've got a farmer feeding, let's say, hay to cattle that's been hit with atrazine or something like that. We are still having a lot of problems with basically killer compost and manure that's been affected with herbicides. I've said this before, but I'll say it right now. If you ever have a source of something like this and you're not sure about it, put some of it in a pot with some soil and plant beans or peas, some sort of legume in that pot. They're the most susceptible plants out there to these residual herbicides. And if you get funny, funky growth, and do it, put a pot right next to it to make sure there's a control with good known soil. And if they grow the same, you're good. If the one in the normal soil grows nice and green, the other one gets like curled leaves or looks just funky, don't use that material because that's telling you you've got residual herbicide in there. And I've seen people literally ruin a garden because they've gone out and got composted cow manure from somebody that was feeding with that Amelia penethate or whatever that new one is, and that stuff has like a 14-year half-life. And I mean, if you put that on your property, you're pretty much in a position where about the only way you can get rid of it is to do something nasty to chickens and make them go through it over and over and over, because the only thing that will accelerate the breakdown of it is exposure to UV light. So really be careful where you're sourcing compost and manure products from. And find out what's being fed, because a lot of these hay operations today, they go in and they hit it immediately with 2,4-D because the hay and the grass will survive the 2,4-D. But just so you know, 2,4-D is about one chemical off of Agent Orange.
that something that's highly resistant to it? 'Cause I've got a neighbor that sprays all the time and he waits for 40-mile-an-hour wind days. I'm looking for something that can kind of grow along the side that would try and capture something.
Well, most grass is immune to the effects of this stuff. So, do your neighbor a favor since he does this to you and put in a barrier to protect yourself but not him and plant it with bamboo because bamboo's a grass. Make sure it's a good running bamboo. Just keep running into his yard. No, seriously, you should probably barrier the whole thing in, but I mean, that's the best answer I could give you to something that's going to withstand a lot of stuff people are putting on their lawns and screen it out is going to be bamboo because it's the biggest grass you can get. Pampa grass or something like that you could probably use as well, but you're not going to get the screening effect of bamboo. But I mean, I don't know, put a big old 4-inch timber bamboo, big old barrier on your side, just send it his way. Spray this.
I like that.
Is there a place for cover cropping and or putting down a cover crop with wood chip gardening?
With wood chip gardening.
Well, the thick mulch.
Yeah, there is, but you're going to do it when you're not wood chipping. So, for instance, I'm doing about, if you guys have seen my videos, about 4 inches of wood mulch on the garden beds I'm putting in right now. I've just done a 40-foot bed at the top of that contour line that I will not wood chip because I am going to hit it heavily with buckwheat, cowpea, and millet as a cover crop, and I'm going to basically plant it as a miniature food forest. It's going to be planted with mini dwarf apple trees, goomy berries, which are a nitrogen fixers, some blackberries and other things like that. And since that's going to get a heavy cover cropping, I'm not going to mulch that. But once that cover crop's done its work, unless I'm going to follow it with another one, then I'll bring the mulch in. But they wouldn't coexist, right? Because the cover crop needs all that space to spread out and do its deal. Mulching more, you're doing your companion planting and things like that. But one thing I want to make sure you guys understand, I talk about mulch all the time, and I think it's a great thing, but it's not for every moment of the day and every location. People say, well, how does the seeds get up from the mulch? Well, pull the mulch back, plant the seeds. After the seeds get up, bring the mulch back in. And there's other things you can use for mulch. I'm just hesitant to do it because it's hard to find it, know that it's not infected with these herbicides. The best mulch, honestly, for your garden beds, the wood's really better for the passive between. I'd love to be using straw on those beds. It's a lot fluffier and softer and lets things up. But until I know I have a good source of straw that's not laced with this junk, I'd rather use the wood mulch because I know that if you spray a tree with this stuff, it kills it. So I know my hardwood wood mulch I'm getting my hands on is for the most part clean.
Did you do a show on just food forest in this area and what you're planting? All that?
Well, I do a show on food forests and what I'm planting in this area. Yeah, probably next week. Because I just ordered a bunch of plants for this little. I'm doing it. What I'm going to do a show on is actually the difference between a forest garden and a food forest. A food forest is a larger structure. A forest garden could be as big as from me to my wife and son right here. Right? It's just mimicking the structure and the shapes. And what I'm going to do is put together some guilds for you. A guild is the plants that collaborate with each other and make up the layer system. And we're going to do that next week.
Cool.
Steven looks bored, so I got something for him. I live here in Texas, so heat is obviously...
What is?
Heat. It's obviously abundant here throughout the year. And my house runs completely, everything runs on electricity.
All
Everything.
All electric house. Yeah.
Everything. So to reduce my electrical bill, after making my house more efficient as far as things that run in there, what would you do next?
Have you done spray foam to your house? Is it insulated with spray foam? Well, you may or may not be able to do that. Do you have an attic?
Yes.
Spray foam the inside. Spray foam the inside of the attic. I mean, the top of the attic, not the floor of the attic. Spray foam the rafters of the attic, and you will get a return on investment. It's expensive, but it's the cheapest thing in the long run because you can get your money back in 2 or 3 years on it because the heat is not entering the house at all.
Okay.
That would work very good.
So on the foaming the attic, we just had a guy that's like a certified energy auditor guy on. And I want your thoughts on what he said. He said if you foam that attic, the deck take the insulation out of the deck. So you're not trapping the heat between the two. So you're better off with it foam to remove the deck insulation. What do you think of that?
That's what I've said. I didn't know.
More insulation, the better.
I agree with that.
Yeah, more insulation, the better. If you got deck insulation there, just leave it in place because it's labor to take it out. And when you foam the inside of it, it's going to keep the roof at a uniform temperature. People say, oh, it's going to heat my shingle and destroy my shingles and everything. It's like, oh God, no. It's going to keep them, and the sun's going to come up, they're going to heat up, expand, they're going to stay there, versus a cloud coming over and they're going to shrink, the cloud going away, they're going to expand. And it keeps them at a more uniform temperature and it will extend your shingle life. But spray on polyurethane, spray foam insulation, and with you with Texas tornadoes down here, it's going to make your roof now a composite structure because everything is going to be glued together by the foam like half of a surfboard. So it's going to make your house a lot more windproof. And if you got like a tree branch flying in a tornado wind, it's going to hit that roof and it's going to have to go through the roof and the foam and everything else, so you become more missile resistant as well.
You're putting a motorcycle pump in your house.
Steve, you leave your vents up when you do that? You spray foam?
Vents.
Your vents?
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta have ventilation up there. You gotta have ventilation. In fact, the heat's coming in by radiation, so anything that does get in there, you want to escape through the vents. Plus, you got the whole moisture control issue with your attic, so you keep your soffits open, keep the ridge vent going, and if you didn't spray foam, if you put a power vent system in that moved fresh air in, you took the hot air out, that is a quick and easy solution to do right now.
What about radiant barrier? Is there any advantages of foam over radiant barrier, or can you apply both of them?
Radiant barrier beats the crap out of the heck out of foam beats the heck out of radiant barrier. Okay, there's conduction, convection, and radiation, and convection are by far more powerful than the radiant barrier. If you're putting in foam, I wouldn't put in a radiant barrier. If you want to do a radiant barrier, I'd use aluminum foil.
All right, so we're going to wrap because Ron's got his presentation in about 5 minutes. But if you look behind you, you will see a thing that says speakers. That's the sum total of the marketing that I put into to my banner. But I'm going to be back in that area for quite a while now. I imagine some of the other folks may hang out. I'll talk to you guys back there. I've talked about laser levels. I've brought my laser surveying level with me. If you guys want to check that out, play with it, what have you. Maybe you can even talk me into taking it outside. It's not July this time, Ron, so it's a lot nicer out than it was last year, Ron. But yeah, we're going to break now. Y'all can certainly stay for Ron's presentation. He's going to be here in about 10 minutes. And like I said, I'll be back there in the speakers area. I think Steve will be with me. I can't speak for David or Frank. David, yes? David will be there, and Frank, we'll see if we can rope him in.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate you. No, anytime, sir.